this weekend, if you have a look at this overall card, Tsarukyan taking on Mateusz Gamrot, and you saw the video that we did earlier about Cody, Durden, and JP Bays, we touched on the fact that the Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, WrestleMania 7, it was a loser leaves town match.
CM Punk, Jeff Hardy's my favorite
Warrior
example.
gets the win. He's got his arms up in the air. He's got his foot on Randy Savage. It's an iconic moment. It's a giant win. Well, if you like that wrestling analogy, Ric Flair, Mr. Perfect, 1993 with Raw. That's Josh Parisian, Alain Baudot.
I think you need an example that you were alive for.
Yeah, I wasn't alive for that one. But regardless,
that's what I mean.
Loser leaves town. And Matt, Josh Parisian, Alain Baudot, couple of heavyweights that I'm surprised are on the main card. Their UFC runs have been terrible. And if you disagree with me, I don't know what fight you're watching, bud. Because, I mean, for Alain Baudot, he hasn't won a meaningful fight, and I'm not joking. You can argue with me on this. In 4 years against 0-2 Yuto Nakajima, he wins that fight, and then he loses to Todd Stout. And you might go, yeah, but Craig, that's a win on his record. He got into the UFC. Watch the fucking fight. Because he gets mounted, he gets splayed out, and he gets rear naked choked, and then the commission in Quebec goes, hey, Todd, you got the old weed in your system. Instead of going no contest, they go, hey, Alain, you win this fight.
I couldn't imagine.
Like, it's ridiculous that that's what it is. So then Alain goes out and fights Tom Aspinall and loses quickly. And then he fights Rodrigo Nascimento, and he has success in the first round. Alain looked really good in the first round. In the second round, he gets knocked out standing. But that one's overturned because the Nevada State Athletic Commission went, there's some dirty, dirty substances in Rodrigo's blood. He doesn't get to pass
He's
that
like
test.
Miles Teller after filming Top Gun 2.
I don't know about that, but it's a no contest for Nascimento. So then Baudot goes out and fights Parker Porter, and he loses that fight. Alain Baudot hasn't won a fight in 4 years. 4 years. Josh Parisian, on the other hand, lost to Tony Lopez by knockout in 2017. Not good. Josh Parisian goes on Dana White's Contender Series, gets a win over Chad Johnson. Well, that's pretty cool. But I go back before that, Matt, because I went through and I watched a lot of Josh Parisian. He loses by finish to Michel Bautista over on The Ultimate Fighter. Then he goes out and fights Brett Martin, also loses. How did he lose those 2 fights? By knockout. Josh Parisian comes into the UFC, loses his first fight against Parker Porter by decision. Well, both these guys have something in common. Old Parky Porty able to get the win. So then Parisian goes out and
Parker
fights...
Porter's kind of okay, though, and I think we have to realize that.
Josh Parisian goes out and fights Rocky Martinez and loses that fight, but wins that fight by split decision. Rocky Martinez beat him in every round.
Okay.
Ostensibly.
You disagree with every decision.
And then Dontel Mays fights old Josh Parisian. And listen, the commentary around Dontel Mays all this time along was that this guy's a good wrestler and he's got judo in his back pocket, never uses it. Used it against Josh Parisian, finished him on the ground. Josh Parisian's 3 fights in the UFC, Dana White's Contender Series. Anybody big that he's fought has been poor except for, well, I guess, yeah, that Contender Series fight. Josh Parisian is the most unranked 2008 heavyweight I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
Like, not even Heath Herring levels.
A lot of people have, like, smartphones nowadays, right? And if you go back to, like, 2009, 2008, one of the first evolutions of a lot of it was the iPod Touch. I vividly remember having one. And if you go back to the golden age of apps, there was Angry Birds, there was Fruit Ninja. I don't know if people remember Simple Physics, but that was the best game ever. There was, 7 mini games, and it was just like, hey, draw, like, basically the structure, and there's just these different tests, and we'll figure out if it can stand up to it or not. Alain Baudot's fighting style is like the skyscraper level on that, but if you just did the outside outline of a skyscraper and didn't fill it up with anything, if you just let it be there and like a 10-mile-an-hour gust of wind knocked it over, it didn't even get to like 170, 180, and you really had to test the structure. For Alain Baudot, there's not... I remember the Indianapolis Colts' defense when they had Peyton Manning was often described as a bend but not break defense, to where we're going to make sure that they don't put up 50. They might get 30, but we have Peyton Manning. He'll get 40.
Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne.
Exactly. The golden age of football, if you ask me. But that was their mindset. We might not be the best, but we'll be good enough to where we can outscore you. Alain Baudot's style is... bend a little bit and then immediately break, because once he does face pressure, and especially offensive pressure from his opponent, I don't mean pressure like the moment getting to him, I just mean if he's pressure with striking or takedowns, he doesn't really know which one to defend, and that's a big problem.
What would he make of that Tovlo, like, Pressure, do, 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 do. He should walk out to that.
I think you
people
should.
like my dancey tunes out of my mouth. You think I should be a beatboxer?
I certainly don't.
Okay.
I hope I didn't ruin any future dreams. Just for this fight, this is a weird one. I do agree. This is a Jeff Hardy CM Punk loser goes home. Because for Parisian, I think he has a better gas tank than Alain Baudot, if I'm being honest. I do think he's probably the steadier of these fighters. I gotta say something about them, Craig. Because for Baudot, I just don't know if he's gonna be willing to move forward and engage in the pocket with Parisian. Parisian will get himself knocked out going for the win. Alain Baudot won't necessarily go for the win in the first place, and that's why I do slightly favor Josh Parisian. I know that's a weird way of saying this fight, but I would much prefer Josh Parisian's forward movement and defensive liabilities than Alain Baudot's just... I'm going to wing shots from my shoulders, because he does have that weird upright style of boxing, like he's like Randa Marcos. All of his punches don't come from the hip, they come from the shoulders. And normally you would think, hey, he's a fighter who keeps his hands up because of that. Nope, Chuck Testa. He keeps his hands by his shoulders, which is okay, but it still leaves an open target to the head and to the body. So I don't think either one of these guys are the highest level of mixed martial artists on planet Earth. So I have Josh Parisian, but if you want to convince me of an Alain Baudot pick, I'm all ears.
I've never picked Alain Baudot for anything, and we usually try our best to be, complimentary of both sides. We pick a method of victory for both guys. I've never done that for Alain Baudot. And he's lost 2 fights in the UFC, and he lost another one that was overturned to a no contest. For Josh Parisian, Roque Martinez won the first round, busted up Josh Parisian's eye. The second round was close. The third round, Martinez won, and the judges scored it for Parisian, which nobody else in the world scored it for Parisian other than 2 of the 3 judges. So forward pressure for Parisian, but again, I think of him as a 2008-2010 heavyweight that's going to work to clinch, that's going to try and take you down. But Parisian doesn't even do that. Like, he doesn't take guys down and wear on them and land ground and pound. No. He's like, I don't know, like if you like Jared Vandera, the Mountain, you like Josh Parisian. Like, these guys that will box to clinch.
What an exclusive group that must be.
Like, guys, like, if you're going to come back and tee on this fight, this isn't the fight to tee on. We have a look at the odds. They're par right now. We're going to have a look at the fan vote. I don't care what it's at. Listen, it's going to be close. 58% Baudot, 42% Parisian. Like, there's probably people out there in the crowd that are, embarrassed that they went with Alain Baudot or Josh Parisian, but they threw that vote out there.
Myself would be included in that crowd.
First round Baudot versus Nascimento. If he fights Josh Parisian, he knocks him out. Like, he knocks him out, inside a round.
If a guy does the thing he's only done one time in his career and he never looks like that person, then even outside the UFC, beating guys who are 0-2 mean nothing to me. I'm sorry.
Alain Baudot goes out there like when he fought, and you guessed it, I'm going to bring up this one. Dolce Champ, where he gets cold-cocked and completely face plants. Like, it's so hard to tell you who's going to win this fight. These guys are not very good.
This is why I really like boxing. You want to know why? There is a very clear path to becoming amazing at boxing. This is why amateurs in boxing is so important. Just let me finish this. In boxing, you have an amateur circuit, which eliminates power from the equation. You do get credits for knockouts, but for the most part, amateur boxing is you hit them and you don't get hit. You just work on your technique and you refine it and refine it and refine it. Then you go to the Olympics. You go against the other best people in the world at amateur boxing to where power doesn't matter very much. And then the judges just keep on tallying the punches and they tell you who wins. Alain Baudot is like if you never did any of that and only fought a bunch of guys who were 0-1. Like, for Alain Baudot, he's looked good against bad fighters, and he's never even looked competitive with okay fighters. For Josh Parisian, much of the same can be said, but he's at least kept it somewhat competitive with a few okay fighters, and that's why I have him as my pick. But again, you could tell me anything about this fight and I would believe you.
If somebody goes out there in this comment section and says, well, Alain Baudot trains with Cyril Gane, so Alain Baudot's going to win the fight.
So he can't defend takedowns?
You're the same person that said Deron Winn trains with Habib, so Deron Wynn's going to beat Phil Haas. Listen, if you talk about boxing, the only thing that you have to do is move across the pond to Canada and then go down to the States with a limited amount of corners and knock out the American. I'm talking Bitterbiev. I mean, what a guy. What a guy. When I'm looking at this fight, I'll reluctantly go with Alain Baudot because I'm going to bet on the picture of what I want. But man, the bill of goods, it's bad, and I don't like either of these guys. And I've said some negative things against Baudot on this channel.
I don't like them. I don't know them.
I don't like either guy when it comes to their martial arts skills. I'm going with Francis Baudot to get a UFC win, but boy, I wouldn't do anything with this fight. Would you?
I've got Parisian.
We're split on the pick. It's a bad fight. 2 good fights. Main event, co-main event. We're gonna punch it up. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.